Hi there, Sherry Schreiber of GettingBetter.com. And I'm not sure what I'm going to talk to you about today. Gosh, there are a lot of things swirling around today that I want to really touch on. But I'm not really sure what I want to talk to you about, so I'm just going to wing it. I had a falling out with a friend within the past, say 48 hours. And I love this friend. We've known each other 40 years. And I just adore him. And, but something he did recently on a phone call pissed me off a little, and I let him know about that via email rather than burying it and keeping it in and swallowing it and pretending it didn't happen or making it not matter, because my feelings matter a lot to me. And I can't just sit on anger, disappointment, hurt feelings and not express those. So I did that in email form. I wasn't nasty about it, but this interchange between us, this email interchange, turned really nasty. And I believe my dear longtime friend is one of these folks who thinks that if you have conflict in a friendship, it signals the end of that friendship. That's the end. There's no such thing as conflict resolution. You can't sit down like two adult people and talk it through and talk it out and end up laughing about it together, which would be my ideal way of repairing a rupture. But a lot of us aren't oriented that way. If we have a conflict with a coworker, we'll leave that job. We'll just quit the job. We'll go find another employment elsewhere, find another job. We'll just leave. It's so uncomfortable for us to take a stand for ourselves and to address real feelings that we just have a tendency to want to cut bait and leave. So I've encountered that in some of my friendships over the years, and particularly about the past 48 hours. I'm talking to you from my bedroom today, so you're seeing a lovely oak tree in the back, although it's probably pretty bright at this time of day, and so you may just be seeing me backlit right now. Anyway, I feel sad about this, and this rupture. And I'm the kind of person who sees my own cracks in my mirror. At times that's felt nauseating to me to look at the cracks in my own mirror. And because I've readily done that and really held my feet to the fire with doing that for many years, I can see other people's cracks. Doesn't mean I don't love them. Doesn't mean I feel greater than they or more than they or that I see them as less than I. It just means I see the chinks in their armor. It's okay with me. Unless somebody has done something that's hurt me so deeply because they betrayed my trust in them, or they've acted in a way that's lost my respect for them, then I can't love them anymore. I just have to say bye-bye and stem the bleeding. But other than that, I'm pretty good at conflict resolution, and it's sad to me that more people aren't. So I guess I want to talk about that, conflict resolution. You have a close friend and they do something or say something that steps on your toes, hurts your feelings. If you don't say ouch, then it gets buried, it gets swept under the rug. And then it could be years later where they do something or say something that triggers you again, and you've been holding that resentment and you've been holding that anger for maybe decades, but you never said anything about it. You never went to that person and said, you know what, just like I talk about in my confrontation video, you know what you just said or what you did really bothered me, felt uncomfortable for me, and it pissed me off, and I don't want you doing it again. So a lot of us never do that. A lot of us never do that. So we end up being conflict avoidant and avoidant personalities in general, and acting out passive aggressively if somebody hurts us. It's not that those feelings go away. They never go away. They just get buried under piles of rubble, and us judging ourselves for having feelings and telling ourselves we shouldn't be feeling the way we do, which is ludicrous because feelings are feelings. If they're getting triggered, you have a right to feel them, whatever they are. I've been having a little bit of a hair shedding problem, so that's what that is. If you can sit down, first of all, email exchanges are really frigging dangerous. Really, really dangerous. Because you cannot hear the other person's inflections. You cannot hear their humor. You read an email that is trying to convey feelings, and it may come across much more strongly than you want it to. Apparently, I haven't learned that lesson well enough yet. But voice exchange is much, much better if you have a problem with somebody, if you reach a conflict in a relationship, especially one that really matters to you. At least talk about it on the phone, or try to. If that other person is very positioned and they don't give you a chance to express your feelings, and they cut you off, or they presume to know what you're going to say and they launch into a monologue instead of being invested in investigating this problem more and having a dialogue about it, well, you've got little chance at conflict resolution. But it's better to try than to do it via email form, because it's a more dynamic method. And you can hear inflection. So if you call somebody a cunt or a twat in an email, you may actually be saying that endearingly. I used to go with a fella years ago, my early 20s, when I was living in Michigan, and he was a lot older than I, because I used to date men much older than I, because guys my age were just intimidated by me. But he used to say to me on a regular basis, "You're such a little cunt." And he'd say it with affection, and he'd say it with fondness. And I really never knew where that was coming from or what I had done or said to invoke that in him. And maybe he did that with all the women he dated. I have no idea. But I grew to love the term because it was delivered with affection and warmth and with a twinkle in his eye. So I've never objected to that word. And in fact, I've used it quite a bit in my life. It's not one of those, what a terrible word. Oh, it's the worst thing you could say to somebody. No, I don't relate to it that way. It's just a word. In places like Australia, I understand guys call each other cunt or twat. So what? You could have a best friend, you call him a cunt or a twat. So what? You kid around with each other, you laugh about it, no big deal. It's not the end of the world. The sky doesn't fall on your head. So, yeah, I have a potty mouth. One of the people who recently subscribed to my YouTube channel said, I love your potty mouth. Well, I've just evolved this way. Probably not going to change anytime soon. I had a client many years ago. If she and her husband hit a little speed bump in their relationship, the only way that they knew to work that through was to talk on the phone to each other. They couldn't confront these problems face to face with each other. It was too scary, too terrifying. I think that's sad. I think that's really, really sad. They needed that insulation, that phone insulation. We each have our own styles of conflict resolution. Me, I'm the kind of dame that I just want to know where I stand with you. And I want you to know where you stand with me. I don't like to play guessing games in a relationship. I can't fucking stand that. Cannot stand to play guessing games. So if you're straight with me, I can handle anything, even if it hurts like hell. If you're telling me your truth and you're being straight up with me and direct, I can handle anything. As long as it's your truth and it's not a bunch of projections of your stuff onto me. If you're accusing me of shit that I know I didn't do, but you did, that's not going to go so well. That's not going to fly too well with me. That's a projection. I'm not recognizing my shit, but I'm going to project it onto you, and you're the movie screen upon which I see that issue. But it's really my shit. It's not yours. It doesn't belong to you. You haven't actually acted in these ways. That's projection. So sit down like two adults, especially if the relationship has mattered to you at all. And I tell my side of the story and how this interaction felt to me. And you share with me your side of the story and how our interaction felt to you, and maybe where you were at the time with other stuff going on, maybe where I was at the time with other stuff going on, and we had these other distractions, and maybe that amped up the volume on our tension, each of us respectively. When I hear your side of the equation, it broadens me somehow. It helps me see a whole different viewpoint of the situation and our conflict in it. When I share mine with you, it helps you see a whole different viewpoint and perspective on the conflict and how I saw that situation and related to it. Especially in male-female dynamics, kids. Men and women are not constructed all that similarly. I mean, yeah, we're all human beings, and yeah, we're all sensitive, and yeah, we can all get our feelings hurt, but the male brain is different from the female brain. And we process, our processing plants between our ears work a little differently. You can't beat around the bush with a male. You got to kind of deliver straight, direct messages. You can't candy coat stuff like you would with your girlfriends. Because all men hear is blah, 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 and they're sitting there thinking, when the fuck is she going to get to the point? I mean, where's the punchline? So you really have to be more direct with most males. I'm not saying there aren't exceptions. And I'm not saying that there aren't females like myself who really prefer direct, straightforward communication. If you have a problem with me. But don't act out passive-aggressively with me. That's just not okay. If you get upset with me and you take yourself away, and I'm not hearing back from you for days, weeks at a time, and I don't know what the hell has happened, and by the way, for us ADDers, no news is always bad news. We ruminate, we go into our heads, we think, what have I done wrong? Have I done something wrong? Did I offend this person? And we're starting to replay months and months of interaction, thinking, maybe I did something to offend. And maybe I didn't, but you're the kind of person who has mood fluctuations, so maybe sometimes you feel bright and good and lively and sociable, and you come out from under your rock. And other times you just hide under your rock, you hide in the dark, because you're ashamed of those parts of you that don't feel wonderful and light and giving and kind and generous. And you're afraid that other people will judge them like you do. So you stay under your rock, and you don't come out until you've rebalanced and you're feeling lighter and brighter again, and you're feeling like you can have human interaction again, and you come out from under your rock, and you come into the sunshine and into the sunlight, and you reach out to a friend or two, or return an email that somebody sent you 6 weeks ago, or a phone call, and that's okay, except for the person that's on the receiving end of that kind of behavior. Especially if they have a little ADD and they're going, what the fuck did I do wrong? Why is this person not hitting the ball back across the net to me? Which I talk about in my ADD article, incidentally. No news is always bad news to us. Those of us creative types that have a little of that going on in our neurochemistry. The absence of contact, the absence of somebody hitting the ball back across the net, whatever it is, and for whatever reason, it causes us to really kind of wonder if we've offended you, if we've done something wrong. It can be excruciating for some people, especially if they don't have healthy self-worth. Okay, so I'm trying to think, is there something else I want to tag on to this video today for you? Because I've actually covered a lot of ground. And see, I started off saying I have no idea where we're going today. But this reminds me of when I did artwork for a while. I used to do these huge three-dimensional, very color-intensive collages with paper and ribbons and things like that. And when I tried to control the art, when I had a preconceived notion of what I wanted to do, I'd always get the equivalent of writer's block. I'd get artist's block. I would just get stumped. Never turned out well. But when I just started fiddling around and pasting beautiful colored paper on some black poster board and let the art lead me along, beautiful things turned out. I always had to approach my art with the attitude of, well, if I just play here and I hate what turns up, I can just crumple it up and throw it in the trash can. That was my fallback position. My sister has her master's in sculpture. She's an enormously talented female. She's been a magnificent painter and sculptor and has worked with metal and blown glass. She's just these days doing fused glass pieces and teaching people how to make fused glass objects. Enormously talented. I was never going to compete with that, with my older sister and her artistic ability and talent, but I have a lot of artistic talent of my own. My whole friggin' family is right brain oriented. We've all been creative folks. Even my father was a Finnish carpenter. So for creative people, even if you're creative with numbers, you might be a CPA, but you're spectacular and creative with doing people's tax returns and getting them the most bang for their buck. There might be a little bit of ADD in there somewhere. Some of our most famous artists and inventors had attention deficit issues. I write about that in my ADD article, Inside Attention Deficit. No, you're not stupid, lazy, or crazy. So you might want to check that out at gettingbetter.com. And it's not getting better, by the way. It's getting better, like the Beatles. It's getting better all the time. Okay. I'm not much of a singer. So I think that's enough for today. I think I've covered a lot of ground today. But, if you hit a speed bump in your relationship, whether it's a friendship or with a relative or whether it's a romantic endeavor, don't sweep it under the rug. Don't sit on it for years and have your feelings hurt and say, oh, well, I can't approach this person because if I approach this person with my real feelings, they'll hate me and that will signal the end of the relationship. Don't do that. That's really, that's a carryover most likely from your childhood. If you had parents that when they were upset with you or they felt disappointed with you, they shut down on you, withdrew from you, took themselves away from you for days, weeks, hours at a time, you would have grown up presuming that if you have conflict in a close relationship, that's the end of that relationship. I mean, you might as well pack your bags and get out now. And that's just tragic to me. That's just sad. And it's unfortunately too common among a whole lot of folks who maybe lack enough emotional development to engage in adult conflict resolution. So, hope this has been helpful to you. Hope you've learned something here today. And bye for now.